Oh, JD, you told me they were not the copyright. I just uploaded it. It's premiering. It is copyright. So what the actual F, Mr. JD? What the fuck? Oh well, I've done me damnedest. These are copyright though. So, Mr. JD, if you see the stream at some point, check the copyright of everything you request, please. Because you telling me it wasn't copyright, you know, if it wasn't, that would have been cool. It's okay that it is, right? We're not breaking any laws or stealing or nothing. But, you know, next time just check, please. That's all. I want to hear this again. But it's copyright though, so I can't play it while the stream is live. Fuck. I want to hear it again. Kabloomy dum dum dum. All right. Oh shit! Someone's here. Give me a sec. Apologies. Trying to fix something. Where's my? Ah, there we go. Fire mango. 17 minutes late. Really? Was good, Badger. Don't DW. What does DW mean? Don't worry. I think it's okay. If you see these lates, I'm chilling till the stream ends or you pop on. You should probably ping the server whenever you stream, though. Yeah? Okay. Guess I'll ping it. First, though, I need to get the link from the stream. Thou shalt not fall. Oh, little sister. Uh, at everyone. Live. There we go. I was getting lost in some music, though. I'm not gonna lie. Although I don't know if everybody has access to it like that. Excuse me, fuck. Well, anyway. Make sure this is all good and dandy. All right. Dashboard. Cool. All right, looks like tomorrow what I gotta do is some love bites. I was watching some Cartier Family. Fire Mango, what's good? As you would say. Huzzah! Indeed. Huzzah! Hurrah! Commander Wolf, howdy fellas, how goes? Waiting on a pizza. I'm gonna eat some chow soon with a fan. Then I'll be back in 10 to 20 minutes. Okay. Please make sure you like and then share the stream on all your social media. If you so would please, and thank you. But yeah, what's happening? How you doing? I was watching some stuff, right? I was getting lost in this one right here. They're called Lyric Noel, Cry Little, and they did a cover of the song from Lost Boys. Thou shalt not fall. Gotta get the slot plugs in, Badger. Yeah, I'm trying to. It's just hard. It's just tough. Wait. How are you recovering from the femboy video last night? What do you mean, recover? Huh? Did something happen I don't remember? Is that what's going on? Thou shalt not fall. Oh, cry, little sister. Thou shalt not fall. Oh, come to your brother. What's that? What's up? But what do you mean by recovery, Fire Mango? What's that mean? Can't wait for the Manscaped sponsorship from me. What are you talking about? What do you mean? You're not making sense to me, bub. Well, anyway, but yeah, I liked this one. This right here. I liked this one. Plus, she's a strikingly beautiful woman. What do you think, Fire Mango? I'd marry her just to marry her. That's the next slop step. Oh, you mean when it comes to making stuff? um, Fire Mango. She has a long face, but yeah, 8 out of 10. Well, her jaw's elongated because she's got a mouthful of vampire teeth. So she's got like those fake vampire teeth. Trying to find a good one. Yeah, there you go. See? It's because she's holding like right, because when you have those in, they add like an inch to your whole mouth. Anyway, we'll see you in a sec, Fire Mango. Commander Wolf, not bad. How are things between you and the missus? Missus? What are you talking about? Missus? I don't have a missus. Uh, that I'm aware of at least. Badger Steam Summer Sale is on. Anything you want on your wish list or all good? I can't think of nothing, bub, but thank you. Uh, all right. Okay, from that angle, not bad. Weren't you at your ex's place last I knew? Yes, my ex-wife. Well, recent ex-wife, technically. Yeah, I'm back here. I'm in Grandpa's old room in the garage. Oh shit! Pretty sure you can see my window unit AC that's inside the room right there. But yeah, she's not my missus. Well, okay, I guess now she is a missus, but she's not my missus. You know what I mean? You know what that means, right? Mr., Mrs., Junior, Senior, all of that. But yeah, no, I'm alive, as you can obviously see. Unless I'm doing a good job of making you think I'm AI. In which case, where's my millions of dollars, AI? Microsoft, where's my money? I've been doing this for free? What? You fucking kidding me? Anyway. But yeah, she's a strikingly gorgeous woman. I like women who are like similar to this. Similar. Not exactly, but similar. Commander Wolf. Not bad, but gotcha. Yeah, married normally, but still someone you once were in a married relations with. You're good. Okay. I figured as much. But anyway, I like their version of this song. Oh, come to your brother, thou shalt not die. Oh, loves with your brother, thou shalt not fall. Oh, come to your brother. Thou shalt not die. I like this. It comes from JD from what was it? The night before last? Last night? One of the two. Oh, come to your sister. But anyway, you got requests? I'm done. Oh yeah, New York City, freaking New York City has decided to elect a commie Islamist or an Islamic communist. Wouldn't it be commies? He's a commies because he's a communist Islamist. What do you think, Commander Wolf? I guess we'll continue watching this. Nobody's done requests yet. It's from the Cartier family.
I had Texas Instruments come in the other day, big company, and he said, we're putting in $60 billion into new plants and new equipment, new everything. Sir, you're going to keep the tariffs, aren't you? Because if I ever took the tariffs off, and we are going to absolutely keep it. And they're worried that somebody that, like this communist from New York, someday gets elected. I can't believe that's happening. That's a terrible thing for our country, by the way. He's a communist. We're going to go to a communistic state. That's so bad for New York. But the rest of the country is revolting against it.
You know when somebody offers an idea that is just like, clearly it's too good to be true. Someone comes to you, hey, bro, who you bank with?
Free bus
I
service.
get you 10K tomorrow. That's like him.
What the hell is free bus service going to do?
We're going to have no rent for 50% of the people in New York with the prices they are now.
He said freeze. No.
Free rent.
Freeze rent.
So that's free rent for a while. Temporary free rent for half of all New York
don't
apartments.
even sound right. Yeah.
What happened if you own that property? So you're gonna lose money on it.
Think
So
that'll help
that
the economy.
and then when this happened, if they can't pay for the property, don't that mean the bank or the government gonna end up taking their land if they're not only getting 50% of the payments?
That's bad for the property owners. Like that's bad for people that want to have property.
That's part of the point, right? If you can't force people to give up land, you make it impossible for them to own it. So if you can't force people to give up property, you work through the system to ensure the same goal, just in a different way. One way is stuff like this right here. Oh, you're a landowner? Oh, okay. Then you're one of the bad people. So we're going to make sure there's a rent freeze, and we're going to make it to where you can't raise it up or do nothing. In fact, you can't charge for a while. And either you'll have no choice but to sell to the highest bidder or the lowest bidder, or declare that you just can't continue business, and then the government will take the land and the property. Seems like a purposeful movement when it comes to what I see, right? Because even if this doesn't achieve those goals, well, the less people that have a direct stake, right, in how everything's going to go, the less people that are going to feel like it's worth fighting over, right? They come at these kinds of things from all angles. A good book to read is Rules for Radicals, because it exposes a lot of this stuff. Anyway, what do you think?
Property in New York.
You wouldn't even want to be like, go there and be an entrepreneur anymore, because like, how could you run a successful business there with all these hurdles?
It's no free market.
Exactly. He just said himself, he's not for capitalism. So you yourself as a businessman, if he wins as mayor, why would you go and do business in a city where the mayor openly says he is against capitalism?
Is New York in the top 5 cities most moved from?
For sure. It might be
it
number
is.
1 or 2.
There it is.
New York City seemingly at a crossroads after Tuesday's Democrat primary race. Self-proclaimed Democrat socialist Zoran Mamdani's agenda calls for taxing the wealthy, freezing rents, pouring billions of dollars into public housing, and
Mamdani, huh? Sounds like another Ani in another political office somewhere in the world, who is also an Islamist that also likes communism. Interesting. There's another Ani in another country that's just like that. Very interesting.
city-run services, including
70
grocery
billion.
stores. This now becoming a clash of ideologies, capitalism versus socialism. And now
That's
major
easy.
donors are scrambling to back anybody but Mamdani, with Wall Street clearly watching closely, the financial capital of the world.
The thing making investors the most nervous is much closer to home. An executive told one of my next guests that Wall Street is clearly less concerned with the war in the Middle East than local politics. Quote, more people are focused on the New York mayor's race. That is the surprising win by Zoran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist, over former Governor Andrew Cuomo. The author of that report, Bill Cohen, is here.
That's
He's a
real.
former Wall Street banker,
He
turned
voted
journalist,
him
and founding
in.
partner
He
of
won.
Luck
The
and
primary.
CNBC.
He won.
The primary.
Yeah, no, he still has to go against Eric.
Hey, I promise y'all,
He
in
still
New
has to go
York,
against Eric.
Eric, wherever you are,
Please
come
win.
find us, and we will get you on this channel. We need
We can do
Eric
that.
Adams for mayor of New York
Fact.
because we know it ain't gonna be no Republican, but we'll take Eric Adams for show over this mother.
this is crazy,
I agree with them wholeheartedly.
bro. Why would they do this in America, bro?
These people want to be more liberal than what they already are. That's the problem.
Wait.
They're saying they're not liberal enough.
You said he won the primary,
He won the primary for the
so
Democrats.
Eric Adams not running
He
as a
independent.
Democrat. He's
He's
independent.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's between Jim Walden, Curtis.
Independent means Democrat. The independents, libertarians, and all them people, the center party people, whatever, they're all Democrats. All of them. They're just in the closet about it. That's about it. But yeah, when it comes to centrists, libertarians, and independents, they're all Democrats. They're just in the closet. What up, Fire Mango? You didn't miss much, no. Not at all. By the way, there's a little Easter egg in one of the videos that I put out today. And I mention it also. So, whoever guesses it gets a special request.
Eric Adams and this guy.
Eric, man.
Bro.
I never thought I'd say that.
He's senior analyst Ron Insana joining us. Bill, walk us through how business leaders are reacting to this race, because the funny thing is, as much as my sources, yours, are all freaking out, I bet your bottom dollar, scores of them didn't bring their booties back from the Hamptons and even vote.
Well, Stephanie, I got to agree with you. I think they both protest too much, as usual. Through thick and thin, these Wall Street business executives always figure out a way to make money, and plenty of it. But I have to say, normally I don't get a lot of unity from the people I talk to on Wall Street, especially with the actions of this administration. But in the last few days, I've gotten sort of a unified response on the bombing of Iran, of the nuclear facilities in Iran, and a unified response on their concern about Zoran. So I don't know what that tells you. As I say, I think they're overly sensitive on the New York City mayoral race. I think they're complaining too much. But this might be the moment that gets our friend Bill Ackman into New York City politics, electoral politics, for the first time. Stephanie.
You know what? The new mayor, potentially, of New York is going to freeze the rents, and everybody eats for free, so they don't have to worry.
Really?
Yeah.
But how about the rich?
No, no.
Do
Well,
they
no.
get shot?
No, yes, they get taken
Are we
away.
kulaks?
Yes, they
Is
get
this
taken away.
Lennon
We have to go.
in 23?
We have to leave now.
I'm not
But
John
everybody
Lennon.
else, there he is. Mom, Donnie.
Maybe he's
He knew exactly what he was saying there. Holy shit, he's right. He's so right. Let's go back to it. I love these guys.
What? The new mayor potentially of New York is going to freeze the rents, and everybody eats for free, so they don't have to worry.
really?
Yeah.
But how about the rich?
No, no.
Do
Well,
they
no.
get shot?
No, yes, they get taken
Are we
away.
kulaks?
Yes, they
Is
get
this
taken away.
Lennon
We have to go.
in 23?
We have to leave now.
I'm not
But
John
everybody
Lennon.
else, there he is.
Is this Lennon in 23? That's great. That's freaking great. I love these guys.
Mom, Donnie.
Maybe he's
Winning the Democratic primary for mayor and potentially the successor of Eric Adams. That said, there's still a general election to come here in New York.
bad.
By the way, of course, we're here. We talk about it, but we are talking about a $2 trillion economy. It's not
Yeah, it is.
lose a vote.
And
He
Trump-
wants to get the rents down. One good way to
Trump
do it
say-
is to
will
stop
Trump-
all business and drive everybody out. That'll bring the rents down.
That's a very good point.
Right?
Go to Jersey, where I am.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to talk.
That will.
Have you seen what Batman is up against in Gotham and what the guy running for mayor is up against? That's what it reminds me of. They're taking Wall Streeters and make him walk out onto the ice in the East
movies,
River
yeah.
as and hope and then they fall through.
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
there is a class warfare that's going.
So what's happened here, I think,
Eat
is
the rich type.
He couldn't even get his words out.
Poor guy is stumbling over it because he's just flabbergasted. He's not exactly sure how to hype this up any further. We've kind of run out of words nowadays that have any real weight to them. Right? You know what I mean? I mean, think about the word nuke. Back in the day, you say that word, it felt like a nuke dropped in the freaking room. Back in the day, you said nuke. Fucking A, any military personnel within a mile of hearing that shit immediately made us all go to DEFCON high status that possibly can be made past the point where the flipper works. They flip that switch so hard it goes all the way back around. You know what I mean? Or in the 90s. Or in the 90s. Right? The other N word. You said that. Or you heard someone else say that. Oh. Shit. Stuff's either about to go down or shit's going down. You know? You know what I mean? Does anybody get what I'm saying, or am I just ranting here? Because here's my thing, right? Is that it seems like we've run out of ways to express things with the appropriate weight for which they are due. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, let's continue. Commander Wolf, Fat Electrician got a nude vid out? Okay. I'll watch those another time. Because I accidentally, so here's my thing, right? When y'all mention anything, I try to stay away from it on YouTube during my normal day-to-day. I try to stay away from it. Well, I accidentally saw something by the Fat Electrician while I was cleaning, but I couldn't stop fast enough to stop the video from playing. So I'm gonna wait a while on that. I don't want to go into it and it all just be performance, you know. I want it to be real, my actual reaction. Um, Commander Wolf, I get it. Yeah, it used to carry a lot of weight back in the day. Yeah. Nowadays, shoot. Young is everywhere, and everybody's scared of them nowadays. But anyway, but yeah, is that like a request or should we continue with this one? Dun-dun-dun. Or I could play some Helldivers. I'm trying to figure out how to get Space Marine 2 on this PC um, without burning it. Because it's got a contained liquid cooling system. It's got like that graphite carbon, like metallic, like liquid or whatever that it uses to cool down the CPU. And I've been seeing a lot of people saying, "Oh shit, bub." On those ones, they've been blowing up. And so, yeah, trying to be careful. I know I can play Helldiver. That's about it at the moment. But anyway, what's up, Commander Wolf? Okay. To Jesus. All along the Western Front, people line up to see. Anyway, did I hear about Alberta wanting to secede from Canada? Wait, to succeed from Canada or secede? To succeed or secede? Like SECEDE? Secede? Or SECC? Which one of those? Succeed or secede? Secede? They want to leave Canada. Okay, so secede. Secession. Okay, so meaning to separate. All right. Alberta? I mean, I guess we'd be okay taking Alberta. Y'all can keep Quebec. Legally leave under charter? I wouldn't mind. More land for America. America! Fuck yeah. That'd be cool. I'm down. Give us that and give us Iceland. Or Greenland. Whichever one. I don't care. Give it all to us. We need more room anyway. Give us our peaceful conquest. Right? And then maybe we could, like, do an Australia on Canada. Take all of our worst people ever and and use them to populate, like, the little province there. Move all the good people out. um, or at least trying to. Alberta is in talks with wanting to join the United States just in case, but America would recognize them as a legitimate country. Okay. It's understandable though, right? Because all of Europe's being taken over by socialists, which there's no such thing as a good socialist. That legitimately physical reality can not. Impossible. But anyway, you had a request? Oh, little sister, thou shalt not fall. Oh, come to your brother. Holy shit. I watch one fucking. Ah! Jesus Christ. Do you see what's happening here? You see this shit? Do you see this, bub? I watch one fucking. I watch just one. I watched just one request from this artist right here, from Lyric Noel. I watched just one today. Now, when I pull up my fucking homepage, it looks like this. What the fuck? What? Well, shit. Fucking hell. Jesus H. Joseph Christ. Oh, man. Heavy metal mix. Lincoln Porch. What the fuck is this? Ignite the God. More metal shit. More hardcore stuff. Yeah, great. I watched just one. And now the top of my page is fucking. Well, shit. You good, Badger? What do you mean, am I good? What do you mean? What do you mean, am I good? What's that mean? Do I look unwell? uh, oh, yeah, I see it. At least the left one got some nice lingerie or skin suit. Lingira? What is that? I'm sorry, dude. I'm trying to read it and I'm like, huh? I was reading that. I did a double take. I was like, wait, at least one got nice something because I knew you were talking about the page. But yeah, freak. And then I tried to read it. I was like, wait, Langira, Langira. Wait, you're talking about this, right? You're talking about that, right? Um, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance Remix. I can send link. Okay. Sexual clothing, the Serenade of the Sleepless Vid. You're good. Yeah. Well, that's more like. No, that's not lingerie. But it is patterned after it, right? That's part of it. What it is. But yes, lingerie or lingerie. But yeah, no, this is not lingerie. Yeah, that's not lingerie. That's closer to like a casual gown than lingerie. But anyway, um, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. Let's check it out. All right, looking at the Discord. What is going on? And I said, hey, yeah. Wait, oh, the link? Is it music? Is it copyright? It is copyright. Composed by Jamie Christopherson, rearranged by Slade Janet. La la. Okay. So yeah, it's most likely copyrighted in some way. You could make this a Discord request. I just can't do it on stream. Otherwise, they'll turn the stream off. And they haven't declared that it's non-copyright. I gotta refresh the chat. But anyway, yeah. Can't do that, unfortunately. Cool drawings, though. But yeah, that'd most likely have to be like an upload request. Any schmoozle. Freaking A. Some extra shit in there, it seems. Another one by Caveman Delta. They make their own music. Okay. Well, yeah, people will make their own music, but people can individually copyright things as well. So yeah. No, Commander Wolf, that's not a protection or nothing. They can still say that I'm the one who initiated this tool to do the thing for me that came from my mind and it ended up being what I wanted it to do, so I made it, right? So yeah, that the tool itself is free use, not the product of the tool, if you know what I mean. You get me? Hell, I tried to use an AI music maker. That's how I learned this. I forgot what the name of it was, but I tried to use an AI music maker, and in the end, right, I was trying to make my own stream music, right, and AI made it easy. It couldn't make anything really good, but good enough, slop. Uh, but yeah, and I tried to use it on my streams. Every time I turned my music on, it copyright struck me automatically. Why? Because the music was registered to me as the individual, separate from the entity that is Black Cat Badger on YouTube. And so the system did the strike for me on my behalf against my own channel for using my own music. And then I had to try to get a license and everything. And by the time I did that, I just didn't have the money anymore to use the AI thing. So I lost all that stuff. But yeah, like that doesn't help either. Good idea, doesn't work. Know what I mean? Commander Wolf, I got you. Damn. Yeah, it sucks. But it is what it is. You got me on a stream in your Discord. What's that do? I know I make this look like something that's easy to do. It's not. Takes a lot for me to learn all this techie shit. And then there's gooner bait everywhere. I think I said that right. Gooner bait. Goony stuff. She's female, so just her existence is a goony stuff. Oh, Overlord, man. Good show. I like Overlord. Oh, buddy. Nelly, I better get on it. There's a new freaking. There is a brand new VTuber every freaking week. Nelia, if you're watching, honey, you gotta start streaming more. Yeah, Commander Wolf, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. But yeah, no, but yeah. Freaking hell, man. The discoveries that prove humans are absolutely insane. Interesting. Fictional armies, also interesting. Huh. Huh. Interesting. I guess. What in the fuck is that? What in the thing hell is that shit? Looks like some kind of weird amalgamation wannabe copy of the thing. You see that? Freaking weird. Looks more Slanesh than corn. Yeah, kill it. With fire. How to find femboys. Oh my god. I forgot about that. The femboy thing. Anyway, wait. Fire Mango's here again, right? Fire Mango. What did you mean by recovering from the femboy video? What do you mean by that? Damn, yeah, there is another new VTuber. Every day now. Fuck. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. Yeah, last night freaking Firemango had me watch a femboy video in last night's stream. Winning. Why 24/7 America died? That's an interesting one. Very interesting. Well, anyway, what do you think, bub? Pick something from here? Do the strange, dark, and mysterious? Where's that one about humanity and stuff like that? Where's that one at? There we go. Extinct Zoo. What about some Extinct Zoo? You ever heard of them? Let's go.
Humans are very odd.
Oh, I've heard this guy before. That's right. My son loves this channel. Extinct Zoo. They're pretty good. I like them. Here, let me share all that shit. Heal. Anyway, Extinct Zoo. The discoveries that prove humans are absolutely insane. Before we jump in, though, I need some more water. I need the drinks. More water or wine, one of the two. I have returned. All right, you ready for this? I'm not. I'm not ready for this. All right, let's go. Archaeology isn't my thing, but
Odd bunch. So much so that I don't think it's crazy to say that we are by far the weirdest and most deranged animals on the entire planet. And pretty much anywhere you look, there is evidence that reflects this. So it's not really that shocking that over the years, various paleontological and archaeological finds have been made, which can only be summed up as horrifying or extremely bizarre. But like everything, there's levels to this, with only some being so memorable that even the researchers who made the discovery are left a bit scared, bewildered, or in awe. And a single find that managed to give scientists all three of these emotions was the discovery of a mass grave in Italy, or rather, in Acropolis, which contained the bodies of over 200 individuals, that dated to over 1,500 years ago. Now, typically, finding hundreds of bodies would be the most alarming part of such a discovery, but not.
Ooh, wait, was this the one where where the people were killed right before they were put in the hole? Right? This might be that one. There was one I was either reading about or listening about that they discovered a mass grave. Well, I guess technically maybe a mass grave. And what they think happened in it from how everything was preserved was that they took the I forget what it's called. They took the soon to be corpses while they were still alive, then forced them into the hole, then they ended them through a great deal of struggle, and then they just stacked them on top of each other, apparently. So, like, imagine that. You're the first one in the hole, and they like stab you through the neck or, straight through the guts or something, right? And then they're stacking people on top of you that they're ending right after. Oh, that doesn't sound like a good time. Anyway, let's continue.
This time. Instead, what really grabbed their attention was just a single specimen, a middle-aged man dubbed TUS 380, who had seemingly died between the age of 40 to 50 and had suffered a very rare kind of trauma seldomly seen, an amputation to his mid-forearm. Given the age of his remains, this procedure, if voluntary, would have happened under zero anesthesia, with a bone saw, no antibiotics, and without painkillers after, which is a strong first sign that this dude was absolutely metal. But here's the thing, he was also literally metal, as where his stump would be instead laid a full-on iron knife, pointing in the direction away from the arm and signifying that we had ancient cyborgs before GTA 6. And this knife was by no means for show, as another wild observation the team made was that he lived with this upgrade for many, many years, and showed signs of having endured extreme biomechanical forces. In other words, he used a stabby hand very often. And one pretty grim sign of this was that a good chunk of his teeth were literally grinded down to the pulp cavities, a result of having to constantly fasten his knife straps as they would loosen or go undone. And another good sign that whoever this guy was extremely hardcore, as literally grinding down your teeth to nothingness through overuse has gotta hurt. And he did so apparently while getting frequent bacterial infections and dental abscesses. On top of this, his shoulder also became a sign of the knife's usage, as the bones shifted in a way suggesting that he frequently held his arm in an unnatural position. And then, just in case you needed some more proof, the amputation site itself also showed evidence of intense friction, likely occurring as he wielded his metallic arm. Question is though, what was the knife being used for? And the answer may have been tied to who he was, as he belonged to the Germanic group of people known as the Lombards. And even for ancient times, these guys had cooked up quite their reputation, being known for their aptitude of war and conflict, and leading to the idea that TUS 380 utilized the knife arm in self-defense and battles, which is where he perhaps had originally lost the arm in the first place. So clearly, this was one badass human with an insanely high pain tolerance, and ultimately, despite his setback, he may have ended up overcoming the odds and winning life. Because as mentioned, he likely died around 50, which was relatively old for the time, with the current thought being that natural causes took him out. Now, a peaceful ending to a tumultuous life is something which sadly cannot be said for another much more ancient find.
Okay, that was supposed to be shocking? I guess? I don't know. I'm a little confused here, because, we're about a fifth through the video. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Me, it's like a no-brainer. I would figure, okay, if part of my craft if my part of my one of my existential roles, right, is to be a warrior, and I got a missing finger, and I need to go ham with the hands, I figure I would do something to enhance my hand. A blacksmith, can you make me a blade that fits on the nub or something, right? Something like that. I just don't get how it's such a giant discovery, really. Right? Well, anyway, let's continue.
Which revolved around a single shin bone. This fossil came out of the Turkana region in Kenya and was dated to 1.45 million years ago. In other words, we are not dealing with a Homo sapien here, but scientists could tell that it, without a doubt, belonged to an ancient relative of ours. But so far, we haven't been able to pinpoint the exact species, as multiple humans lived in the region at the time. And it certainly does not help that this bone is beyond heavily damaged. Damage, which by the way, seems to have been caused by other hominins. And this wasn't your average kind of trauma, being very deliberate and precise, with 9 incision marks ranging across the shin bone that traced where in life the victim's flesh and muscles would have been nestled, and leading to the disturbing realization that scientists had stumbled upon the oldest evidence of a butchered and defleshed human, which in turn screams cannibalism. And here's the other disturbing part of this find. Just like how we don't know who this bone specifically belonged to, we also don't know who ended up killing and subsequently eating them. After all, multiple species were coexisting, and perhaps, apparently not so peacefully.
Yeah, makes sense, right? Plus, there's like overwhelming, overwhelming evidence that conflict between things that are different is inevitable. It's just the way of the world. It's the way of reality. Even if you're not fighting each other, you're fighting reality itself. Just to try to find some way to live that much longer and to extend the time you have here. Right? So there's that. But cannibalism existing for anyone shouldn't really be a shocker. Right? I mean, different animals do cannibalism. Insects do cannibalism. Other things do cannibalism. I don't see what the big deal is, really. Sure, I mean, we would look at it and be like, oh, they ate one of their own? That's not good. Well, I mean, if you had no other choice, what would you do? Because I've been through the worst shit imaginable for a human being. I still have no idea what I would do. Just saying. And the shit I've been through was voluntary. But anyway, let's continue.
Leading to the grim possibility that maybe it wasn't the most abnormal thing back then to snack on your friendly neighborhood hominid cousins. It would also be quite on brand for the region, as water sources nearby seemingly fluctuated quite intensely, meaning that droughts would have disrupted the amount of available food sources. And though there have been other discoveries that have competed for the title of the oldest evidence of cannibalism, for now, this shin bone comes out on top, given how straightforward it is. Definitely a bone chiller, pun intended. Although, while mysteries around it remain, it's not exactly super perplexing, and definitely not as confusing as the Rising Star Cave. The name of this place alone is pretty cool, but trust me, the story gets even cooler, or perhaps crazier. This cave is located in the Malmani Dolomites of South Africa, and has only been on modern human radars for a short time, first being mentioned in the 1980s, when it was explored and roughly mapped out by a caving team. However, not much of it ended up being thoroughly detailed, as they quickly realized that it was a deceptively complex cave system filled with many hazards. But eventually, given that it was a cave and located in the cradle of humankind, it was re-examined by an anthropological team, who by sheer luck alone discovered a chamber, now dubbed the Dai Naledi Chamber.
Ooh. Oh, brother. That kind of a crawl, man, is intense. I couldn't make it in there. I'm too beefy. I'm too big. Right? I'm a big boy. Even at my skinniest, I couldn't fit in a lot of those places. Right? You gotta be like maybe 95 pounds, soaking wet. About 5'5". Brother. Was anybody else feeling just shivers seeing them squirming through them tiny spots? I'm not claustrophobic, right? I've been in some really tight places, a lot of really tight places. But there's just something about, crawling downwards and then getting trapped in a little spot and you can't climb backwards. I mean, you could train to try to kind of do it, and it's kind of possible, right? It's just excruciatingly hard. My God, doing a reverse wall climb, insane. I swear to God, it's insane. But there's people that are part of rescue team, that I know of that actually do that. Because they may or may not have to try. Right? And so, but yeah, just imagine that. You get down there, you're at an angle, get stuck with your head forward. You're in that tight little spot, can't wriggle back. But, well, anyway, let's continue. But yeah, I just got the heebie-jeebies.
And this area held something remarkable: human bones. And not just a couple, thousands of them. Over 1,500 to be exact, which together represented 15 individuals who varied in gender and age, with both infants and elders being amongst the pile. And this range immediately made it the richest assemblage of associated hominin fossils ever unearthed in Africa. A remarkable thing on its own. But here's the odd part: the bones should really not have been there.
I figured it was some kind of location issue. The fact there's humans anywhere on the planet should not be surprising, really. But location might be a thing.
You see, to reach the chamber in which they were found, you had to overcome some ridiculously hard obstacles, including navigating tens of meters or feet of unlit passages, wiggling through a narrow area which was so tight that only the thinnest people can pass it, and only again when you're in a position akin to the Superman pose. And if you somehow made it past here, you're still not done, because then you'd be forced to scale a jagged steep slope before fitting through another tight passage, and then finally descend down a 12-meter or 49-foot vertical chute. So yeah, not easy. But hey, if you somehow survived this and made it through, well, congrats. You finally just reached the entrance of the chamber, which all goes to show that you don't end up here with a lot of deliberate effort. And originally, the simple explanation was that flooding had swept the already dead individuals into the cave and then into the chamber. However, studies in the site's sediment revealed that it had never been flooded, and that the bodies had been put there over a long period of time, not just in a single event. So this revelation led to the new, bit unsettling thought that maybe a man-eater had been responsible for this whole mess, as it definitely would not have been the first time an animal dragged humans into a cave. Yet, the team didn't really believe this, seeing that of all the bones, only one didn't belong to humans, instead belonging to an owl. And because no animal targets humans so exclusively, and considering that the bones actually had no signs of predation, scientists soon crossed this idea off the list of possibilities. And in fact, the bones did not just have no damage from predation, they also didn't really show any damage at all, something which just further confused researchers, as it strongly implied that the bodies had not been dropped down the massive vertical chute, but rather had been put down gently. But that just brings the further question then of what would be insane enough to pile bodies in an extremely remote, difficult to access part of a cave that is so hard to reach that only humans with modern equipment have been able to do it. And the answer is that it was likely the very same thing that the researchers found: the humans, or rather, to be more specific, an entirely new species of humans, now dubbed Homo naledi. Even today, Homo naledi are a group only known through their Rising Star Cave, But thanks to the sheer quantity of bones, we do actually have a fair idea of what they were like anatomically, being both shorter and lighter than us, while also possessing a smaller relative brain size and a body more adapted for arborealism than other Homo species.
Okay, that would make sense. My other guess was going to be like, maybe, because that sounds like a hell of a way to thwart danger. If it's a critter that's small enough to fit, they can take it. If it's another human being that's bigger than them and more powerful, they can't make it in. If it's something that they can handle that's another human being, they can make it through, but they'll be outnumbered. Makes sense. That's a hell of a choke point to have, right? If I was tasked with doing that, right, with assaulting that position, I would apply to use some kind of chemical warfare. Right? That's what I would do. Freaking shove some stuff that sucks out all the air down there, shut off the entrance, and let whatever it is that's down there die from lack of oxygen. Gone and done it, right? And there's mixtures you can make to where they're heavy enough. So dispersion isn't much of a issue. That being said, it's like, shit, dude. If they had said there was a village that lived down there, I would believe it.
It's currently believed that they existed between 335,000 and 236,000 years ago, making them one of our youngest relatives. And while most believe they did have proficiency with tools, thanks to their similar cranial structure, no one thinks they were rocking any advanced climbing gear or navigation tech, and thus leading many to still wonder how on earth did they reach the chamber and whilst carrying bodies at that. And the answer is that we simply don't know. Now, some have stated that they likely navigated the caves with fires, while others have made the hypothesis that they
like a twisted burial cairn or a tomb. Cairn? Was that what you were trying to say? A cairn? CAIRN? Like a cairn? Here, let me type it in there. Like a burial cairn. Some say carn, but cairn. Cairn's more distinctive. Because carn could be like carne asada. Or carnal, like meat. Or carne, meat or flesh. But yeah, burial cairn. Yeah. I mean, but then again, how did the bodies make it do that thingy while dead? They made it all the way in. Were laid nice and neatly, right? Handling a body with rigor mortis is real tough because the body and joints and stuff lock up. Right? It's like they're frozen. So, but if it's for burial, right, or disposal of bodies or corpses, then how the hell did they do that shit? Especially if they're bloated, because when human bodies, when you're dealing with bodies, like they start to bloat pretty quickly from decomposition. So I don't know. Well, anyway, let's continue.
made markings which acted as waypoints, but all studies which have sought to explain the how have ultimately been criticized. And in the end, even the idea that the Naledi put the bodies there themselves is still a debated hypothesis. Heck, I mean, there are even claims that while the fossils are definitely Naledi, maybe it was other Homo species that put them there, with one idea being that long after they died, it was actually us modern humans that buried the bodies in the cave, which if true though, would honestly be way more odd. And something else which would be odd is if you made it this far without dropping a sub or a like. No professional climbing gear required. Now, maybe it's a me thing, but I think deliberately burying a body in a narrow cave is downright insane. And while I am sure at least some would disagree, I think what everyone could agree on, being not normal, is what scientists found at a remote lake in the Trishul Massif of India. This shallow, narrow glacial lake is formally named Rupkund, but to the locals, it's earned the creepy nicknames the Mystery Lake and the Skeleton Lake. And why? Well, simply because around this shallow pool are hundreds and hundreds of bodies.
Makes sense. Yeah, I've heard about this one before. I've been to India, but never to, like, this particular area.
Well, skeletons. Possibly numbering more than 800 individuals at that. And this isn't your typical necropolis or graveyard, because these bodies were not put there deliberately. Rather, they're strewn about, suggesting that scores of individuals have been killed around this tiny lake. Back in the early 1940s, when the site was first
Strewn about sounds like what happens after a battle, right? Because there's no organization or orderliness to it. Strewn about like chaos of a battlefield, right? Maybe a couple of parties fighting each other, right? Who knows?
discovered, British authorities feared the worst, thinking that these casualties represented a secret invasion by the Japanese into India. But upon further examination, they concluded that while these were definitely Homo sapien remains, the bodies were far too old to be an invading force, which was corroborated by the items they located among the carnage, which included wooden artifacts, iron spearheads, leather slippers, and rings. And so obviously, researchers were extremely perplexed as to how so many people had died here at once. And one clue that might have held the answer were the bodies themselves, as due to the surrounding temperature and altitude of the lake, many of the victims were well preserved, in some cases even containing flesh. And what they noticed was that a lot of the individuals were all killed by the same thing, a large, round object. To be specific, on the upper bodies and heads, a common injury which was found was blunt force, that appeared to be in the shape of a fallen object, like a stone or a large piece of ice. And interestingly enough, when talking with the nearby villages, scientists heard about a local legend, which told of an ancient king who, along with his family and entourage, had been killed by a large hailstorm when trying to pass through the mountain. And so given this loose account, plus the actual injuries they found on the bodies, the team concluded that Skeleton Lake had in fact seen a massive hailstorm, and therefore resulting in a large number of deaths. Case closed. Or so they thought. Because while hail-like injuries were a theme, not all the skeletons had injuries associated with blunt force trauma and hail. But to be honest, this was the lesser of the contradicting evidence which came forth, with the bigger issue being that later on, another team ended up testing more specimens, which revealed that the dead did not represent just one group, but at least 3 different ones, all from different times and regions. Now, 2 of them seem to have died here around 1,000 years ago.
Freaking A. That's crazy. I'll be right back. I gotta do some stuff real quick. right, I'm back. All right. Back to this intriguing video by Extinct Zoo.
Within a few decades of each other, and showed typical South Asian ancestry and Southeast Asian ancestry, respectively, while the third group was from a very unexpected region, mainland Greece and Crete. And these outliers had also not died so long ago, with estimates being as recent as just 200 years ago, making more than a few wonder if the lake is even safe to visit nowadays. And obviously we could answer this if we knew what killed each group, but alas, we do not, and for now it's considered a mystery. Most still think a hailstorm is what killed at least a few of them, but 3 separate hail events in this one remote location, which were deadly enough to take out humans, seems highly unlikely, especially when combined with the lack of clear injuries. And the whole thing is even more bizarre when you realize that the identified groups came from the analysis of just 38 individuals. So in other words, who knows just how many groups fell victim to Skeleton Lake? So for now, the mystery remains. But mystery does not always equal the spookiest.
Maybe there's some creature there with 6 fingers on each hand and long red hair. That's 7'6" and so big none would dare. What do you think? What do y'all think about all that? Yeah. Guess what? That doesn't really tell me anything. Cover-up job? Cover-up job. Like it's a disposal site? Okay, and about the Karen, yeah. Cover-up job. I mean, maybe?
And something, which I personally would feel even more uncomfortable around, may have been something actually created out of good intentions. Plastered human skulls. In the 1930s, around the Levant, and especially around the city of Jericho, researchers stumbled upon a frightening object that resembled a human head. It had been constructed through multiple layers of wrapped plaster that were painted and adorned with seashells in order to give the impressions of eyes, hair, and skin. A bit unsettling for sure, yet nothing compared to when they actually pried open these plasters, as within these plastered mockeries were real heads, or at least what was left of them. In total, over 20 heads were found, which dated to between 10,000 and 8,000 years ago, and primarily represented adult men, although a few were children and women too. Now what's disturbing, beyond the whole head and plaster part, is that the jawbones had all been removed, and that each of these heads had been placed underneath what would have been homes. An interesting place to store heads, no doubt. And this prompted great interest in why people had created them in the first place, with one of the original ideas being that the artists, if you want to call them that, had killed whoever these heads belonged to, and then taken them as trophies, with the plastering process being a bit like what's seen with shrunken heads. In other words, a ritual of sorts. However, in recent times, a much more wholesome hypothesis has emerged, which is that because the skulls were buried underneath people's houses, they might have represented one of the earliest forms of burial practices in civilization. Additionally, it's been unveiled that these skulls did not remain locked away, but were periodically handled over long periods of time. So long, in fact, that while they were likely started as known deceased individuals, they eventually became just known as an ancestor to whoever was handling them, which was perhaps too much of a commitment, as after a 2,000-year window, the Jericho plastered skulls seems to have vanished from existence.
You know what they remind me of? That new video game, Scorn. That's what they remind me of. Exactly. Scorn. I don't know if anybody on the stream has seen it yet. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Scorn. Yeah. That's what that reminds me of. Or kind of like the Xenobites from Hellraiser, I believe. Man. Anyway, let's keep going.
With only one remnant being left behind in the culture, a mythical tale of all things, which was discovered in the region thousands of years later. And it goes like this. Immortal. What does he get in the end? What does Immortal finally get? Glaze poured on his head, lime on top of his skull. Pretty somber for something possibly meant to celebrate ancestors. But honestly, unsettling worship just seemed to be the trend back in the day. And there's actually a way more disturbing example of hypothetical worship. Let me introduce you to the human jigsaw. And yes, it's just as bad as it sounds. As opposed to the Levant, this brutal find came out of Scotland, where near South Uist, in Scotland's Outer Hebrides, 4 Bronze Age skeletons were located. Like the Jericho skulls, they were found within ancient houses, with the main difference being that they were above the floor, not beneath, and were lying in pretty normal manners, indicating that they hadn't died in any noteworthy way. And for the most part, they were considered routine finds. Until, that is, under further examination, a contradiction was identified. One of the bodies, a presumed female, turned out to be not all female. To be exact, most of the body was, yet the skull was male, and so were some of the other parts. And in a further twist, those other parts turned out to have come from really 2 males, resulting in the stark realization that this skeleton was actually a combination of 3 different individuals. And lo and behold, the other specimens turned out to be a mashup of different people too. Pretty gnarly.
So somebody was like taking human remains and using them like a jigsaw playset. Like Lincoln logs. Ugh.
And it only gets worse, as another find was that these jigsaw humans had been, well, pickled, essentially, with the bodies showing signs of demineralization, something that happens when you stew a human in an extremely acidic environment. And conveniently nearby was a peat bog, which, as it just so happens, contained the necessary amount of acidity, leading to the idea that they had been in the peat bog for quite some time. However, as mentioned, they were not found in the bog itself, which created just more questions, as this meant that someone had purposely stitched multiple bodies together, dipped it in a peat bog, waited oh so very patiently, and then placed the final product in their house. And just to shake things up a tad more, radiocarbon dating found that the bodies were hundreds of years older than the actual building. So what does this all mean? Well, the most likely answer, according to the researchers, is that this was an extreme form of ancestral worship, where for hundreds of years a Bronze Age community in Scotland kept deceased relatives above ground entwined in a jigsaw monstrosity, which they also seemed to pass down and add to through time. In other words, more bodies were added as people died. Of course, there is also again the more grim possibility that these were not an example of ancestor worship, but rather were trophies. But given just the sheer amount of effort that went into making them, most think that's probably not the case. And given the known instances of violence from ancient times, this does seem to track, as they weren't exactly careful and meticulous with their fallen foes' remains. And honestly, even compared to some of the messed up things that have happened in today's times, I'd have to say that ancient violence shows to have been quite a bit more deranged. After all, there was a whole period, the Neolithic, where people seemed to be all about unusual cruel killings.
I'm going towards the latter on this one. Commander Wolf, a serial killer of ancient times, most likely, probably trophies. Yeah, most likely trophies. Right, because there's a sick devotion that people like that do such things have when they care for their trophies.
With multiple large sites even being found throughout Eurasia. In fact, so many brutal discoveries are known of that I even made a full video on it, so go check that out if that sounds interesting. Additionally, due to the period's notoriety, researchers have even become a bit desensitized to Neolithic murders, with very few cases of violence outside of this time being able to compete. But there is one location in the US that actually comes pretty darn close, with it also representing a potential meltdown of an entire society. Now, our story here begins in southwestern Colorado, where back in the day an ancient culture was known to reside, now known as the basket maker Pueblo culture. For thousands of years they lived in the region, and were known to inhabit pit houses, which simply put is a house built in the ground and used for shelter. And it was in a few of these structures and their surroundings that an extremely horrific scene was discovered, an entire community wiped from the face of the earth. There were at least 24 bodies in total, but it was 7 in particular that grabbed people's attention, as they were beyond destroyed. Their bones had been cleaned of flesh, roasted, and cracked open, while the skulls were scorched, smashed, and had scoop marks showing signs of people fishing the brains out, all evidence that a mass cannibalistic feast had gone down. And this was no simple attack, as the site was not only abandoned, but also defiled, suggesting that whoever lived there did not take captives, but rather were the captives, or victims, being attacked, killed, and then eaten within their very own homes. And evidence beyond the actual bodies included blood-stained tools and cooking pots. In other words, they may have been cooked in the very same pots that they used to make supper. It also seems that whoever cannibalized the victims had absolutely zero remorse or pity for the dead, as perhaps the worst discovery of it all was the coprolite, meaning in this case, human feces, within the cold ashes of one of the pit house's hearth, suggesting that one of the attackers deliberately defiled the house after the gruesome events unfolded. And given that cooking hearths were integral parts of this culture, this act could be viewed in some ways as the ultimate insult. And honestly, given the sheer brutality of everything, there was actually some initial pushback on the findings, claiming that perhaps a foreign culture had invaded, or that the bodies weren't actually cannibalized, with the damage having come from other means. Yet unfortunately, this turned out to be some wishful thinking, as one damning piece of evidence came to light, and that was the coprolite itself. As after testing, scientists found the presence of myoglobin, human myoglobin. And that doesn't just end up in your stool unless you've been gnawing on someone, mainly someone's flesh, as myoglobin is not found in most organs or vessels. Furthermore, whoever did this disrespectful deed in the hearth must have been a serious cannibal, since opposed to other coprolites known in the region, this one was all myoglobin, meaning that for 12 hours before defecating, human was the only thing this unknown individual was snacking on. No veggies, no fruits, nada, just straight human.
A meat eater. So, literally, a man eater.
But here's the thing though, while this example is the most brutal one in the locality, it was actually just one piece of a larger puzzle. As out of the blue, researchers noted that the basket maker Pueblo culture had at some point gone from pretty chill to straight killing and eating other humans, a bit similar to what we've seen in other Neolithic cultures. And actually, it has one of the highest rates of suspected cannibalism and violence of any known ancient culture, with one study finding 72 sites with signs of cannibalism, 38 of them being definitive. And then on top of that, another analysis of 870 skeletons found that more than 8% bore cannibalism marks, while rates of violence were even higher. And given how this gnarly episode of violence kinda just sprung out of nowhere, many have wondered why. And though debates remain, one idea which has emerged as the favorite answers this mystery through 2 important coincidences. The first being that around the same time, roughly 850 years ago, the Chaco system, which essentially was the heart of this culture, mysteriously collapsed and disappeared. And then the second coincidence was that severe droughts had struck the land after periods of plentiful rain. And when you combine all this together, you get a land so desolate due to droughts that society essentially slowly imploded, with the cannibalism reflecting the unimaginable final days, where people turned on each other just to survive. So yeah, pretty messed up. But let me just remind you, these remains, stories, and evidence is just what we've found so far. There are undoubtedly untold amounts of mysteries, brutalities, and oddities just waiting to be discovered. But hey, on that cheerful note, if you somehow made it through all of this,
Freaking A. Commander Wolf, I guess they couldn't get their hands on German sausage, so they decided to source local sausage. Ho ho God. Holy shit, dude. But yeah, no, freaking I get it. I get it. It's kind of like the last thing, right? It was like, well, I mean, you never really know, right? I've been through some of the worst shit, you could offer to experience as a human in recent memory. And even I couldn't say for sure I would not. That being said, that was from Extinct Zoo. Discoveries that prove humans are absolutely insane. Indeed we are. Indeed we are. He's almost at a mill already. Oh, there's a link. All right, so that being said, I am gonna go. I may or may not be on a bit later. But yeah, I'm going to call it there. That was a very informative video. That being said, what did y'all think? Y'all let me know in the comments down below. All right. I hope y'all had a good weekend so far. Yeah, thank you for being here. Commander Wolf. All right, Badger, you have a good night. My dude, stay safe. I do hope ICE hires you or Border Patrol. Me too. That'd be wonderful, honestly. In fact, that would be incredibly amazing. I'd love to get hired. It'd be a great time. With that being said, I will see y'all in the next one. Be good. Be safe. Make good life for yourselves. Don't compromise safety and security for nobody and nothing. Death and disaster is only a second away. Do what you can today. And I'll see y'all in the next one. I am Badger 7 Actual, the formerly homeless veteran, Blast Cat Badger, out.